All right. Let's get started here. Let's roll the Mario the Galaxy music. Oh yeah, that's fresh. That's hot. That's good. And roll this. Time to take a look at Spelljammer Academy, or not Spelljammer, Spelljammer Beyond Academy. No more Spelljammer Academy. We already got over Spelljammer Academy. It's not fun. We're not doing Spelljammer Academy. Here we are. Here's my face in the corner. Get this in a good spot where it's not obscuring the text, eh? Maybe over here? There we go. I can see my full, beautiful head. And my lovely poster. Now then. Yes, space is wonderful. We hope. Today is the release of Spelljammer Adventures by Wizards of the Coast. This module, Spelljammer Adventures in Space, actually consists of 3 books. I don't know why they divided it up like this, but you got the lore book, basically, the bestiary, and then an actual level 5 through 8 module. And we're not going to be talking about the Light of Xerxes, A, because I don't want to spoil anything on this stream, and B, because it's still not available on Roll20. So, but that's fine, because what I'm more interested in is the mechanics and the menagerie and that sort of thing. This module, maybe we'll take a look at it later. I'm going to be running it, actually, and if you want to play a Spelljammer game, I have one starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time today. So, I don't know, go to the Discord, I guess, or go find me on Start Playing. Salmon Corvette, if you want to do that. In the meantime, we're just going to be looking here at Spelljammer. And let's turn down the volume on this a little bit. This is a little too loud. Music. Alright. So, Spelljammer, Adventures in Space. I'm not going to go through this page by page, because that would take hours. And this is fully blind. Like, I have not read any of this. We're going in this together. So, let's just hit next page and go look. And this is taking place, by the way, this is on Roll20. I ordered that, because that's what I use to run my games, and the compendium integration is fine. I'm sure the PDF probably looks better, but plain text actually makes this easier to review. There's the credits, there's some dice, blah blah blah. Red Dwarf, I would be a funny person who takes the piss out of everything. Money is a bit different. You take the piss out of money? Anyways. Adventures can unfold in any corner of the multiverse. I do love this art here. That's cool. I can increase my face a little bit. The flexibility of D&D Beyond Roll20 will never get any of my money. Fair, although, what I like Roll20 for is that it has a good tabletop, and I'm skeptical about D&D Beyond's VTT. Also, ever since Wizards of the Coast bought Beyond, they've made some policy changes that I'm not a fan of as a professional, but that's a story for another time. So, if you look at the night sky, you're seeing is wild space, and beyond that, the Astral Sea. The Astral Sea is phlogiston. This has been confirmed. Oh my god, this is loud. The Astral Sea is phlogiston. Hey Reese, thanks for tuning in to this live review. The astral plane is quite literally the plane of stars. Now, I don't know, so I guess they're just sticking fully with astral plane. They're not calling it phlogiston anymore. Which is fine, although I don't know if the same rules will exist, so I'm curious about that. Got wild space, that's the same. By traveling into haze, you pass from wild space. Okay, in wild space, if you were to leave your home, you would begin to see a faint silvery haze. By traveling in this haze, you pass from wild space into the astral sea, or colorfully known as the Silver Void. Oh, so there aren't crystal spheres anymore. That's good to know. That's really good to know. It would have been nice to know with Spelljammer Academy. Okay, well, that's going to require an entire lore change. But we'll figure that out as we go. Making a Hadozi to abuse Glide. I don't know if they are going to nerf it, but I guess we'll see, because this is it. We'll see the Hadozi later, so stay tuned. Okay. The Astral Sea, like Wild Space, is a void. You can breathe normally, and there's no weird flame stuff. Okay. And spell jamming. So, cool. So that's a huge canon change already. I don't know if that's for better or for worse. I kind of like the crystal spheres. They grew on me. But now it's just wild space, and then it kind of turns into the Astral Sea. So you don't need to use portals or anything. Kind of lost a lot of really psychedelic lore there. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess we'll see what they have here. Okay. So, here's Light of Xerixis. Okay. Here's just a random table of hooks. Yeah, whatever. I never use these. Unless I'm, like, improvising a one-shot. The art, I have to say, is really nice. Look at this. A Dozy, Gif, an Astral Elf, a Thrykeen. They're all, the whole party's here, but no Plasmoids yet. Make it up as you go with the crystal pillars. Sophia Sphere. The crystal Sophias, yeah. I mean, we can stick with the crystal sphere, because I like the crystal sphere canon, but, you know, maybe it's a good idea to stick with this canon, especially because of how they changed the astral plane anyways in the other canons, with the Githyanki in there. I think making the phlogiston not immediately flammable was probably a good change, and I'm willing to adopt that immediately. Let's look at these backgrounds, shall we? Or the races. Okay, wait a second. Roll20, you're messing me up. Are we looking at the races or the backgrounds? What? No, I wanna go to my seat. Oh, okay. Well, this is fine. Anyways. Before we get to that, here's some backgrounds. I guess these you can't just turn the page to. That's a really cool art. I like that. I like that a lot. The awful pen drawing is the original Monster Folios. Yeah, no kidding. Maybe I'll pull up an original Spelljammer PDF for y'all to see later. The Silver Void. So that's the new name of the Phlogiston. Or the Astral Plane is the Silver Void. I like Phlogiston. I don't know, that has a nicer... It's more quirky. This feels kind of... It's become mystic and less sci-fi. I don't know how I feel about that. Like a mote of dust on the wind? Is this a... What? Okay. I'm not going to click on that link. You've camped on the Petrified Hulks. Okay, so this is just a background for somebody who's... your average astral explorer. Pretty standard in every expansion to have something like that. And Wild Spacer, this is just somebody who lived in Wild Space instead of the Astral Plane. Same thing. So, pretty basic backgrounds, but I don't think you need a complicated background, especially for a Spelljammer setting where the obvious hooks and the obvious thing to do is like an open world exploration, you know? Okay. Yes, Wild Spacer. Let's look at the races. Here's the meat and potatoes for you all. I know this is what you're all waiting for. So, Astral Elf, Autognome, Gif, Hadozi, Plasmoid, and Thrykeen. We all knew this was coming. All of these had Unearthed Arcana entries, I think, except Gif and Autognome. Maybe Autognome was there. Autognome is actually, I think that's a fun option in general, because that's basically an alternative to Warforged. But we'll go through them one by one. Okay, yeah, this is just explaining how races work. Oh, woo! I really do love this art. Wish I could use it for my start playing banners, but look at that. He's shooting lightning bolt through the beholder's face. Crazy. Okay. What? Okay, hold on a second. Did we... Okay, the way this is laid out by Roll20, I think we need to open each race individually. My apologies. Let's pop these open. So, Astral Elf. Here's Astral Elves. The Astral Elves, by the way, I believe are the main antagonist race for the new module, but don't quote me on that, because I still haven't seen it. Groups of elves venture from the Feywild to the astral plane to be closer to their gods. Life in Silver Void has... So these are elves that live in the astral plane. Because nothing ages on the astral plane, they live very long, and they still live 750 years even if they don't live on the astral plane. Astral Fire. You know, dancing lights, light, or sacred flame. Interesting. Dark Vision, Fey Ancestry, Starlight Step. As a bonus action, you can magic teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you see. Okay, so basically, a free Misty Step. That's on another race, I think, so that's not too unique. And the usual Trance, except they made it Astral Trance. Okay, so that's I'd say that's pretty bog standard for a race. I don't think there's anything special going on there, but I do like the art for the elves. Now, the Autonomes. This is where shit gets real. I love this. I don't... These were in 2nd edition, but they weren't a playable race, so I'm really excited to see what's going on. Look at this. This is amazing. Okay. Autonomes can live for centuries. They have some fun little hooks. You're built to complete a special mission. You are encased in thin metal. While you aren't wearing armor, your base armor class is 13, so that's the same as the Warforged. Built for success. You can add D4 to one attack roll, ability check, or saving throw you make. You can do so after seeing the D20. So you basically get 1 D4 Bardic Inspiration times your proficiency bonus per long rest. That's a cool... While still being pretty balanced. I like that. Mending can be used to heal. Okay. I don't know. That's... Mending is a cantrip. That might be very strong. And see, here this is a nice clause. I don't know if this is for the... Also applies to Warforged, but... that's an issue sometimes players bring up. About, like, Healing Word not working in constructs. If you have resistance to poison damage and immunity to disease... This is, like, a really strong race. That's really strong. You are a little small gnome robot man, so maybe that's how it balances, but this is especially just healing from mending. I guess Warforged have the same thing. But that's pretty strong, I gotta say. I wouldn't call it broken, but that's strong. Maybe that is broken if you can heal with mending. Anyways. GIF. I love GIF. I think they're my favorite race in this game. They're just hippos. They don't go into too much detail here, which is a shame, because in AD&D, they were like... There was a really fun lore about them, like, never fighting each other, and how they wear, like, a shitload of medals on themselves. What's this? Although they don't realize it, GIF are drawn to the astral plane because on a deep psychic level they remain connected to their creator gods who have just enough divine spark left in them to imbue GIF sparks of their own, which GIF have learned to channel through their weapons. Really long sentence, but I get it. Some say GIF, some say GIF. That's funny. I don't know how I feel about... So they made it explicit that... well, they don't have a home world. That's the same thing. Divine beings who created the gift have been forgotten. Their titanic petrified bodies drift in the astral plane. Cool. This is neat. Astral Spark. Your psychic connection to the astral plane spark. You can channel when you hit a target with a simpler martial weapon. You can cause the target to take extra force damage equal to your proficiency bonus. That's cool. As it just so happens, I gave one of my players a greatsword from a gift that does extra force damage, and I had no idea this was a thing. So now I feel like a psychic. So you can use this number of times your proficiency bonus. You have mystical connection to firearms that traces back. All GIF have proficiency in firearms. And ignore the loading property. That's also very strong. And you have Hippo build, advantage on ability checks, strength, and strength saves. These are very strong races so far, I gotta say. These are... If you're gonna do a Spelljammer campaign, make sure you choose a Spelljammer race, because these are all a little bonkers. Here's Hadozi, Alolan Divine Bowman, who's watching this, I think, plays a Hadozi, and so far I think it's been having fun. They got their little gliding hands. Here's the lore. A wizard visited Yazir, the Hadozi homeworld, with spelljamming ships. He fed them experimental lectures that enlarged them and turned them into sapient bipedal beings. Now that's some wild AD&D sci-fi stuff. I like that. Okay. And it intensified their panic response. Okay. Cool. What do we got here? So, if you follow the UA, it looks like it's pretty much unchanged. Dexterous feet. You can use it to pick up, yeah. You're not incapacitated or wearing heavy armor. You can just glide, and you can use your reaction to reduce fall to 0. And Hadozi Resilience. When you take damage, use your reaction and roll a d6, add your proficiency bonus, and reduce the damage. So basically, a racial uncanny dodge. That's interesting. I don't think that's too strong. I really like how they've been attaching everything to your proficiency bonus now, which should have always been the case. Yes, very fun. He agrees. Would you like to play Hadozi? 1 p.m. Eastern Time today. Go start playing, etc. Okay. Plasmoid. I'm gonna bet these have not changed much from UA either, because I thought the UA build was actually pretty balanced, and indeed, it's exactly the same. Even advantage on the grapple checks. As a bonus action, you can extrude a pseudopod, and it looks like that pseudopod can basically do the same thing as a Hadozi's feet. Cool. And once again, I love the art. Look at Giant Hamster. We'll get to Giant Hamster later. Thrycreen. Thrycreen, excuse me. This is a race I'm glad is back, especially because they only have a base stat block in the monster manual, so I'm hoping they have a bunch more in this monster manual. A bunch of different versions. Alright, same thing with the bonus armor class, and you can change the color of your carapace, giving you advantage on stealth checks, but that has to be an action. So I guess that's actually less strong than it seems, because you have to do an action to change color and then another action to hide, unless you're a rogue, I guess. Do you like first session's free, Corb? The campaign starts at level 3. The first session is not free, but there is an early bird bonus, so you get half off the first session if you join, or if you're one of the first few people who joins. So it's a system through start playing, which I quite like. Maybe I should link it, actually. This, if you would like to see this adventure I'm running, I'm very proud of the thumbnail. So if nothing else, go look at this thumbnail. Put a lot of work into it. Okay. Thrycreen also have secondary arms. They don't need to sleep, which is really interesting. They don't even need to do like the elf trance. And finally, I'm really glad they kept this in. They speak through telepathy, and they make little cricks and chirps. Your telepathic link, but it can only be with somebody within 120 feet, so that's something to keep in mind as a player, and as a DM. That might be an interesting restriction in space, where things can get really far apart. Not that I guess you'd be able to hear without the air envelope anyways, but, you know, okay. Right. Not too much lore on these guys, but that's okay, because I think they have a bit of lore in the basic, like, lore expansions. For 5. Thank you. It's, I used some AI art for the background. For quite a few iterations. Okay, so here's how spell jamming works. Now, all I'm curious about is how much they changed from AD&D, and it looks like, at least for basic spell jamming, not a lot has changed. But basically, a spelljammer can travel 100 million miles in 24 hours, which I think is always the standard. Make minor course corrections, but when you're at tactical speed, stuff changes. And a spelljamming ship automatically slows to its flying speed when it comes close to something big enough to have its own air envelope and gravity plane, such as another ship, a Kindori, an asteroid, or a planet. A Kindori being a space whale. And that's kind of subjective for the DM. That's a fun way to just... I don't know. I don't think that detail was in AD&D, but that makes things way easier for a DM to be like, oh, why are you stopping? In fact, they do that at the end of Spelljammer Academy, where the ship stops involuntarily, and it's because there's an asteroid with an ambush behind it. So you can have fun with stuff like that. That's a good idea. Spelljamming Helm moves a ship, moving a limb that's fallen asleep when the ship approaches something large. Spelljammer slows down. Okay, so kind of Dune-style driving now. A ship can have more than one spelljamming helm aboard, but only one can be used at a time. In the old version, only spelljammers could use helms, but I don't think they carry that over to this new version, which was probably a good change, because it was a weird restriction. Also, when you used a spelljamming helm, it got rid of all your spell slots. And even if they did keep that in, I would not do that, because that's a terrible idea. Okay. So, I guess spelljammers make their own con saves? A spelljammer duel ensues if you try to gain control of a ship using a second spelljamming helm. Oh, okay, the users roll con saves. That's interesting. Okay, here's how air envelopes work. Looks like they kept them pretty much the same. Although non-magical fire cannot exist. Magical fire does burn in a vacuum. Magical fire does not cause objects to burst into flame. So you can cast immolation in space, but the fire won't stick. Okay, this looks pretty basic, unchanged. This is almost a carbon copy of the diagram that was in the book in 1989. So, a spherical planet 5,000 miles in diameter has an air envelope of 15,000 miles in diameter. So air envelopes extend out really far, way farther than actually happens on planets IRL. And when you enter the air envelope, you get affected by the gravity, I think. Because I think that's the rule they're keeping here. Okay. Kept the same air quality rules, which is good. These are fine. Overlapping air envelopes. So, when two bodies come close enough to each other, their air envelopes merge, and the quality of the air around the smaller body changes to match that of the larger body. When the bodies later move away from each other, one reclaims and retains its own air envelope. Yeah. Cool. Gravity planes. Now, this is where your brain starts hurting. So, let's get through this quickly. In wild space, in the astral plane, gravity is an accommodating force, and that the direction of its effect seems to be that which is most convenient. Smaller objects, such as spacecraft, gravity doesn't radiate from a point, rather from a plane that cuts horizontally through the object and sends up as far as its air envelope. So, exact same rules as last time. An object that falls off the side of a ship can end up oscillating back and forth across the gravity plane. One thing they had in the old books that I guess isn't here is when you're at the center of the gravity plane on a ship, you actually get pushed outward. Which is why falling overboard is bad, unless you can get back. But I guess they didn't keep that because it got too confusing. But I think they put that in to make the thing work, but now it's just oscillating. Which is fine. I think that makes things simpler. Okay, when gravity planes intersect, the gravity planes of both ships remain in effect until two ships touch one another. Hold on, did we establish that the gravity... Okay, so the gravity plane is the exact same as the air envelope. Which makes sense when you think about it, because that's what would cause the air to stick to the... You know, you get it. Ships, and the first ship's definition of up becomes the other ship's as well. Okay. So, it's a basic rule of hit points remaining, which is interesting, regardless of actual dimensions. You could actually have a lot of fun with that by having a really small ship, but giving it a lot of HP and saying there's like a black hole or something inside of that. That might be interesting to play around with. When a ship touches down on a planet, the ship's gravity plane is suppressed. Yeah, okay, so same rules as last time. Intersecting gravity planes are what causes things to happen. Local time varies from world to world. What time is it? 11:05. Cool. Okay, we're keeping with the same timekeeping rules. Astral travelers avoid using years. I don't blame them. An unanchored object can drift at 10 feet per minute. Oh, an unanchored creature or object floating in a ship's air envelope is weightless and drifts towards the edge of the air envelope at a speed of 10 feet per minute. What? How does that... What do they mean by unanchored? An unconscious sailor or crate that falls off the deck would begin drifting away. Oh, okay, so they are keeping that same rule. Once you finish oscillating, you move towards the edge at a rate of 10 feet per minute. So very slowly, but if, say, everyone was knocked unconscious and fell off the side of the deck, eventually they would all drift off and die. Fair enough. You could have fun with that as a DM as well by having everybody knocked unconscious by something big, and then some live and some die. Probably the NPCs die or something. Want to find their body? That could be fun. So, this is interesting. They don't note it here, but in the old one it said literally, like, a form of combat, for instance, Mind Flayers do is have their big ship come into the air envelope of a small ship, and then creatures are just dragged into the new gravity plane onto the ship, and then it flies away, kidnapping a bunch of new slaves. So that's fun, and I think that's the same rule here. Let me read this more closely. Normal damage from fall applies. So yeah, that's that could be really interesting. I don't know how much you'd want to mess around with those mechanics as a DM, without, especially if you're using battle maps. But you could have some fun with that. Okay. So, the astral plane. This is where a big canon change happens, so I'm going to have to read this closely. Every world the material plane is situated in wild space. Wild space systems are airless oceans teeming with space. Dwelling. Wild space is where the astral plane overlaps the material plane. The astral sea surrounds all wild space systems. Fair enough. Dead gods, astral dominions, etc., etc. There's wild space, doom space, so makes sense. Okay, a typical wild space system has a sun plus a number of moons. Wild space is where the astral plane overlaps with the material plane. Okay, that's an interesting way of fitting that into the new celestial canon. That's actually kind of clever. This overlap enables creatures to use spells such as teleport and teleportation circles, travel from wild space to a nearby world, or vice versa. Does that mean a different wild space region? Or... Okay, creatures and objects in wild space age normally and exist in both planes simultaneously. So you could use... Okay, so you have to be off the planet, but once you are, you can use teleportation circle to travel to a different wild space region, or a different place in the astral plane. I don't know what that means. If anybody has any hot tips, let me know. Okay. Create your own wild space system. This like a little guide here. That's just the bottom of this page. Or is this... Oh, okay, this is general rules for settlements. Okay, world-to-world travel requires a spelljamming chip, a teleport spell, or some other kind of magic. In a wild space system, the DM must decide how long it takes a spelljamming chip to travel from one world to another. This has to be easier if the DM's diagram showing how far away the world is. Using such a diagram, you can calculate the shortest possible voyage and longest possible voyage. Yeah. What I did was just set out the positions of the planets ahead of time, and since it takes literally a year for them to go around the sun, or more, it's remaining static for the most part. A creature ship that wants to travel from one space system to another must cross the astral sea unless it has some other magical means of traveling. Oh, we already did that. The astral sea not only has gravity, but also breathable, comfortable air. But is the air real, or does the heaven include home of some trick creatures? One can never be certain. Ooh. A creature doesn't need a vessel to travel through the astral sea. Compel yourself through thought alone. So this is completely different from the old Spelljammer. But you move really slowly compared to a Spelljammer through the astral plane. 5 times your intelligence score feat. With a flying speed, so 5 times and 50 feet per round, which is fast in tactical terms, but is really slow compared to a Spelljammer. One doesn't need a map to navigate the astral sea. Here, all creatures are blessed with directional awareness. Okay. Cool, I guess. Again, I don't know how I feel about this, because I liked the old version where the phlogiston really was, like, this completely alien, hostile environment where you could set things aflame immediately and so forth. Maybe it was just Roll20 that was talking about phlogiston, confusing me, but I thought they were mentioning phlogiston, but I guess not. Okay, it's like a summer day in the astral plane. Since there are no seasons in wild space, its temperature remains constant. Some have higher, lower temperatures. Crin space has very low temperature, clouds of ice particles. Any gods have dominions in the astral sea. Floating islands or cities. And you can find the bodies of slayed gods. This is really cool lore that I will be using in my campaign. People build settlements and dead gods on the astral plane, which is a really neat idea. Okay. Astral fishing. You can go fishing in the astral sea. That's neat. Wild space settlements sell basic fishing equipment. You can catch space eels or gray scabbers. Following rules apply. Impeded melee. When making a melee attack, a creature that doesn't have a flying or swimming speed has disadvantage on attack rolls. A creature can use an action to push off something heavier than itself, then move up to its walking, flying, or swimming speed in a straight line. So, yeah, you can't control your trajectory unless you have a gadabout. So here's some new spells. Just 2 new spells. They look pretty basic. Just air bubble. Lasts 24 hours. Decent gift to give to your wizard at an early level if they don't have it already. And create Spelljamming Helm, which is only 5th level, but requires a 5,000 GP crystal run. Cool. So, pretty basic stuff. There's also magic items, 3. Fish suit. Takes 1 minute to don or doff. Okay, so this is just a space suit, and gives you swimming speed so that you can attack in space. Spelljamming Helm. This is its own item now. That's good. This ornate chair propels and maneuvers the ship. So this is actually some important rules in here. Must weigh 1 ton or more. It looks like this is... You can steer the vessel, be in a somewhat clumsy fashion, much the same way that rudders or oars can be used. You can see hear what's happening on and around the vessel as though you were standing in a location every time aboard it. You can use an action to touch a willing spellcaster. That creature attunes to the Spelljamming Helm immediately, and your attunement ends. Oh, so you do have to be a spellcaster to Spelljam. So that's a really good thing to know. You do gotta be a spellcaster, however, It doesn't wipe your spell slots, which is also a very good change. But that's fine. Only spellcasters can spell jam. Remember. Desperate buyer in a seller's market might pay 10,000 GP or more. Wondering if maybe I overcharged my players at the beginning, but then the Mercane would do that anyways. Okay. Wild Space Orrery. What is this? Okay, this just tells you where things are. Okay, ship-to-ship combat. We kind of already talked about this, but it's basically, it looks like it's pretty much the same rules as ships. We just have the addition of gravity planes and air bubbles to make things a bit more interesting. Yeah, same rules for boarding, crashing, 1d20 plus the Spelljammer's proficiency bonus. So each Spelljammer has its own stat block. The Spelljamming ship crashes into something that can reasonably take damage. Both the ship and the creature take bludgeoning damage based on the size, as shown in the crash damage table. So, I guess if you had a large ship hit a gargantuan ship, the large ship would take 16d10, and the gargantuan would take 40d10. Okay, those are pretty simple, but I like it. If it doesn't have hit points, such as a moon, only apply damage to this ship. It would be fun to, like, ram somebody with a huge ship and they just, like, take 8d10 and die immediately. So the vessel needs to be berthed for repairs. You can use mending. I think mending is almost mandatory in this Spelljammer campaign, given like autonomes can use it and you need it for your ship. There's a bunch of different ships, and I don't really want to go over each of them, but let's just choose a few random ones. Space Galleon. So, for instance, this is a 400 HP, 20-ton ship. Costs 30,000 gold. Okay. Here's the Hammerhead ship. This was in Spelljammer Academy, but here's the full stat block. 30 tons, 400 HP, costs 40k, has a blunt ram, 2 mangonels. So, this all seems relatively straightforward, I think. It's interesting that now the helms are the cheapest part of the ship, because in AD&D, spelljamming helms were like 100k gold. 1 second. Okay. Where were we? So, yeah, I mean, they're ships. Okay, so now we're in the real lore, the Rock of Brawl. The Rock of Brawl is apparently in the new module. Traditionally, it's not supposed to be located in a specific place, or it's up to the DM, kind of, to be a mystic place to go. Maybe they have a map for it. I hope they do. Like a full map in Roll20. Brawl as the Rock. Chapter provides an overview of the asteroid city. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I don't... Honestly, I don't find the Rock of Brawl as interesting as I think a lot of people do. Okay, became a burgeoning city. There's merchants and tavern keepers. So, some pretty deep lore here. Whenever there's lore like this, like, I don't really know what to make of it. I guess it's good they wrote it down, but, like, why, you know, it was founded by Captain Brawl, that's cool, and then he gave it to Kozar, and then Kozar gave it to, you know, as a Dread Pirate Robert situation, and then there's Kalar, and then so on. Prince Andrew is merely one player in a maze of political intrigue. So this is basically like a whole This is like, you want to run an adventure or one-shot on the Rock of Brawl? Here you go. The No City Watch patrols the streets. I don't know, for us, you know, for this main, like, for their cornerstone or their capstone setting for their new huge expansion, the Rock of Brawl, which is, in all respects, kind of just a mundane medieval kingdom that just happens to be on a rock in space. Never felt that exciting. But maybe you can make it exciting. Self-serving and devious. I don't know, man. There's Andrew, and he knows Mahak, Sarah. I wouldn't, honestly, as a DM, I wouldn't bother reading this unless my players took an inordinate interest in Brawl, or I was holding up a campaign in. But it's cool lore, I guess, if you really want to hold something in Brawl. The Rock of Brawl is roughly 1 mile long. Maybe there's some cool stuff in here. There's the Low City. The underside of the rock is off limits. That's where Brawl's military force is. Crowns the rock. Palace has many windows, all rendered shatterproof by magic. Lake Brawl. Library of Spheres. The Man o' War. The Donjon. I mean, I don't know. Brawl is astronomer. Jasper, there's a great market. There's the guild house. I guess I just, you know, you're so excited to go to space and explore space. And then your DM's like, okay, welcome to the Rock of Brawl. And then you just land and go into, like, a tavern on an asteroid. And then you're just doing a regular D&D mission, but on an asteroid. Cool, historic enclaves, Sino-Germination. Okay, I mean, this is cool stuff. I just, not really what I... Okay, here we go. Here's the menagerie. This is what I'm excited to see. This is what we're here for this day. So, Boo is a hamster. Squeak, says Boo. A miniature giant space hamster, a rather famous one, in fact. Boo's adventures with Miss the Ranger, as well as Frosty, are legendary. There are countless amazing creatures. Entities of the outer plane, such as angels, devils, and Slatty, are just as likely, blah, blah. So, here's all the creatures, up to level 20. Players, beware, spoilers ahead. How you do encounters. Okay, hold on, let's go back. I'm just gonna choose a few out of here that look interesting. For instance, Chwinga Astronaut, an elemental astronaut. Oh, that's so cute! It's on like a fish, fishing for smaller fish, and it's got a flame head. Chwingas live in wild space. They dwell on moons and asteroids. The charm allows you to cast the air bubble spell as an action. Chwingas are tiny elemental spirits that adapt easily to any habitable environment. Gentle creatures protect nature. 6-foot-tall animated dolls with mask-like faces. Evasion, unusual nature. They can give a super... Oh, they can just give a charm, any charm. Huh. And they know Druidcraft, Guidance, Pass Without. So these are like little, basically space spritlings. This is neat. This is so cool. I like this. Note took going silent. That's fine. What's a doer? Ah, look at what is this? There's little penguin men? They prefer to communicate through telepathy, which they call merging. They can have telepathic conversations, and they can cast detect thoughts, and they're just little penguin guys. This is so great. Space Guppy. 3-foot long fish. So these are just little fish. Okay, and then we have, like, here's Hidozi's shipmate. So these are just, like, generic humanoid sheets. I'm glad they have these expanded. Space hamster. Also, space mollymog? That. Oh, okay. Huh. Cool. Space hamsters were created by wizards who use magic to shrink giant space hamsters. Go for the eyes. The target must succeed on a DC 15 dex save or be blinded. So these little things can jump up and blind you. This could make a fun familiar, if this is true. Also, they have 5 feet of telepathy and can speak? What? They're smarter and telepathic. Oh, they have 6 and... So these are smart. Okay, so they can't be familiars. These are monstrosities. Oh my god, okay. Well, I'm definitely including, like, a bajillion of those in my campaign. Space Eel, Susurran Poisoner. Lizard folk who have adapted to arid climates and in wild space. Huh. Okay, so... Cool. Jammer Leech. A Jammer Leech is a barnacle-like creature that begins life as a space-dwelling spore that attaches to the hull of a ship, remains for a few days, and begins to develop a hard shell. The shell is affixed by a glue. A single watery eye at one end and a spiked tentacle. This is really cool stuff. If it's killed on the spell, if whoever's attuned, they take psychic damage and are incapacitated. Huh. So these are like just a way to really annoy players. It's fun. Surlin Ringer. Okay, it doesn't have art. Then enters a psionic trance for 8 hours, at the end of which it takes on the appearance of the creature it ate. Ah, I see. So a possessor. Worm-like creatures that burrow into people and take over their bodies. Okay, that could be fun for like a side quest or whatever. Have it take over somebody's brain. Arctic priests. Oh, so these are like plant people. Intelligent plant creatures that live to wage war. That could be fun, like if you do an encounter on Garden or something. Could be the native inhabitants. Thick, flexible bark. Oh, okay, hold on, let's look at the stat sheet here. They can cast Revivify in tongues. They're smart, and they shoot radiant pellets. These are so cool. Okay, we're not going to go through all of these. I'm just fascinated by some of these, like Space Clown. Space Clown. They're from Clown Space. Oh my god. What? Space Clowns from Clown Space. I gotta give Wizards of the Coast credit. No comment. Hinged on the evergreen of Thrilljoy. Only after they became addicted did they discover that the priests of their faith had distilled their elixir from demonic ichor and the nectar of the bozo flower. Eventually, Thrilljoy transformed the faithful into fiendish creatures and blessed them with clown-like appearances. What? They feed on humanoid flesh and travel in clown ships. They pop like balloons and spread acid damage, and they wear shoes that squeak out to 30 feet. They have ray guns and can spider climb and can literally touch somebody to shock them to death and take on phantasmal forms. These are CR2? Space clowns. Space clowns. Cool. Okay, there's more Niyogi sheets. That's cool, such as the Niyogi Pirate. We got Gash. Hideous hunters that prey on intelligent life forms that crawl on 6 insectile legs and attack with their mandibles. Bungee globe about 2 feet in diameter. Oh, these are so cool. Mercane. So, the Mercane have actual sheets now. That's great. I'm not going to read too much of this because I'm sure there's spoilers in here, but cool. I'm glad they have... I'm glad they're still here, and I'm probably going to make heavy use of them. Murder Comet? What? Earth elementals with fire elementals make murder comets. They fly through space and explode, dealing 86 fire damage when they hit people, and they can what? Oh my god, okay. That could be fun to attack a ship with, but I gotta give Wizards of the Coast credit. I wasn't too into the stuff before, especially the Rocket Brawl stuff. Bit of a snoozer, but this stuff is wild. I love it. We got Space Lampreys. Yeah, perfect timing on the music. Look at this thing. Oh, 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 oh. Okay. So higher level gift sheets. That's cool. Oh, what? That's sick. That's a GIF in like GIF armor. What's the? And he's got thunder bombs and stuff. That's so cool. What's this? A Rhaegar Celestial? What is this? Whoa! What they got rainbow faces? Androgynous folk with bioluminescent freckles. They destroy their own homeworld in the Master Stroke. They wander wild space in search of artistic inspiration. Yo! And they can summon golems? Okay, and let's look at some of these higher level ones. The Aesthetic. An organic ship with only the barest hint of awareness, CR12. One might be bilaterally symmetric. So they're basically like the equivalent of purple worms in space. And let's look at some of these Reagan sheets. Also, GIF Warlord, CR10. Oh my god, that's so cool. What? Small fleet, commands a small fleet, CR10, has legendary resistance. Morningstar and a double-barreled musket that does 28 damage. But I guess this guy's made to, these are legendary actions. Or it can make... Okay, cool. I just love this art. Lunar dragons are capricious, xenophobic creatures. They live inside desolate moons. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I want to see what their sheets are. They can burrow through solid rock. I guess they burrow into moons. Have a cold breath. They'll attack treacherous ice. Magical ice covers the ground in a 20-foot radius centered on a point. Huh. Okay, and finally, this was in a free release, but this is a cosmic horror. So I'm glad they put sheets out for these, but I think this is more of a general use sheet. Or if you have like a farm realm villain, you can just use or modify this. But I guess you could just have one appear if you have like level 18 characters or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Zodar. Oh, what? That's sick. No one knows where they came from. They're not merely aloof, they hover in silence. Each Zodar has a specific mission. It can use a message of up to 25 words. Can't be teleported or sent to any plane of existence. And let's just look at the stat sheet here. On a failed save, they take force damage. Teleported. And it can cast Wish. Okay, cool. Astral Elves deal extra radiant damage. This extra damage isn't a feature of the weapon. Okay. Cool. So, that's some cool stuff. I dig it. And here we have some fun encounter tables. Just some random wild space encounters. I might just put my players through this. It looks like it's not set to any CR, but I mean, these don't have to be hostile. Oh, there's attitude rolls. I see. Can only be hostile or indifferent. Oh, so they're limiting it by... I see. So these could be fun to just use at random. A random Kraken, a Lunar Dragon, Murder Comets. I guess it's up to your players to choose to avoid them. I might try these out in my campaigns, just to see how they go. Always backtrack if they're that strong, but I don't think they would be too awful. Okay. You can run into a Planetar at random. Cool. A Starlight Apparition. And oh, these are ship encounters. Okay. Oh, so these are if they encounter another ship, this is what happens. Neat. Part 3 of the adventure takes place in a wild space system called Doom Space, which consists of 2 worlds and 12 moons spiraling toward a vortex that used to be the system's sun. Okay, so this is the story of a crystal sphere that was shattered. But so there are crystal spheres? I'm so confused. I thought there weren't. I don't know what to think now. There's a black hole in the middle, so you could have a lot of fun sending your players here for quest. This, like... Okay. This is the only mention I've seen so far of a crystal sphere. I don't know what to think. And here's Zerix's space. This is for the other one. This one looks like pretty standard, but this is the Astral Elves home space. And we got some cool stuff going on here, and that's it. Otherwise, it's just the DM screen, in case you want to, like, fill in time with shipboard tasks, like scraping barnacles off the hull, or filling up the cargo of random ships. I mean, if you really want to do a full sandbox game, you could use these tables, probably, to make a pretty fun adventure. And that's it, other than the module, which we're not going to be going over today. So, yeah, that's Spelljammer Adventures in Space. So, I wish there was more lore, especially because, hold on, I need to understand how the whole astral plane thing is. Okay, hold on. It's own airless oceans. Wild space is where the astral plane overlaps with the material plane. The astral sea surrounds all wild space systems. Sun plus number of moons. And there's no mention of a crystal sphere. So it's just Doom Space that had a crystal sphere and then that was shattered. But otherwise, no crystal spheres, as far as I can see. Right? Yeah. mean... I guess so. Okay. Anyways. That's Spelljammer Adventures in Space. Ooh. So overall, my thoughts are the lore honestly is a bit sparse in the areas that at least interest me. But these creatures and some of the ideas that come from them are really awesome. And I give props to whoever filled out the menagerie, because that's some really cool monsters and encounters in there. I just wish everything else like, there's nothing about realm space or the planets there. There's nothing about specific things you might encounter in the astral plane other than encounters. And I guess this is just the starting book. Maybe they'll release more compendium expansions. I'm gonna have fun with this, but I'm glad I'm running my own, like, sandbox-ish campaign instead of trying to mess with the canon plots they're going with here. Overall, I give this 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 for this first impression. Of course, we want to have a good rating until I've run it, a lot of it, for a while. But first impression, 7 out of 10. Thank you for tuning in to watch this. And hey, if you want to do a little bit of Spelljammer, well, I'm running a few different Spelljammer campaigns. Unfortunately, the one on Fridays and Sundays are filled up, but I still have one available on Tuesday evenings at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so in like an hour. It's still not too late to join, because it's session 0. So if you're watching this for some reason and you really want to play, come hop in. Alright, thank you so much, folks, and have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for some Total Improv. Alright, fare thee well. Oh, I guess we should end this with a raid, eh? Raid. Well, let's raid Curio Wizard. He sent us a raid last time. Alright, go send Curio Wizard some love. He speaks very softly. He's a very kind gentleman. And, it's some nice ASMR or whatever's going on there. Alright. And I think that's the raid.